guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jen, and today we are going to talk about the total solar eclipse that's happening in the sign of Leo at 20 degrees and 2 minutes. And this is on August 12th at 1:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So here. So just as our Lionsgate portal is closing, we have this very significant eclipse in the sign of Leo. And Leo is a sign of leadership, of authority, of government, of pride, and it's ruled by the sun. That's going to be kind of dimming its light at that time because of that eclipse. It's a sign that those who are in the spotlight may get their light dimmed because of things that might be coming out, those we look up to, those who we idolize. This is a south nodal eclipse, and a south nodal eclipse it's within about 9 degrees difference of an orb. And a south node that just moved into Leo on July 26th. So the node just changed signs. And so now we have this eclipse that's kind of like bringing everything to fruition. So this south nodal eclipse is about really paying back your karmic debts. So when karma can come just bite us in the ass, it's really trying to clear all that. It's time to atone for our actions. The south node is also our comfort zone, and it's our safety net. It's what we're used to and what we're comfortable with, what we fall back on. And that is going to be pretty much disrupted. And that's what we actually have to get away from. Get away from what we always fall back on. Instead of just doing the same patterns over and over again, we need to change it up a little bit. So that's what this is all about. Really like sparking change to really change the way that society is. Our So because this is in Leo, we'll see the spotlight on this with authority figures, like I said, kings, government, also celebrities, those that we've grown really accustomed to, that we, news people that we get our news from, that we get our information from, people that we trust, people that we look up to for that information. So we're going to see, you know, the people that gave us this leadership, that gave us guidance, and even religion and religious ideologies are going to be in the spotlight, and they're going to have a spotlight on them for maybe not the best reasons. So kind of like I look at this like luminol. So luminol is that detectives spray on something and then they shine the dark light over it to expose where the blood is, the evidence of the crimes, pretty much. So I think that is a lot of what this eclipse is going to be all about. So pretty much exposing and showing the atrocities, the lies, the cover-ups, and this will force us to rethink our beliefs and our ideologies, because also in Leo, we have Mercury closing in on a conjunction with Jupiter. So both opposing the sign of Pluto. So that challenging. Mercury and Jupiter are challenging authority with that information and blowing it up and kind of bringing it out into the open during this, you know, after it dims down. Once it comes out, and there's no going back. So this is going to be, you know, challenging authority, that Pluto, challenging and taking down authority with this information that's just too big to ignore. That's that Jupiter, and too important for us to just make excuses for anymore. Again, getting away from our comfort zone, getting away from, you know, the lies, the excuses, the things that we have grown accustomed to that maybe really aren't what we thought they were. And it's time, that this is going to be undeniable, and it's going to really be indefensible for a lot of people, causing many of these leaders to fall. The ones we've trusted, the ones that we've looked up to, celebrities as well. Anybody that has kind of been like that person that you follow. So we'll see how it works out, because that light could shine on the bad, but it can also shine on the good. So Mercury conjunct Jupiter is also sextile to Uranus. So we know that the shakeups are inevitable. So they're going to happen. Mercury conjunct Jupiter are also sextile to Venus. So that's Venus in the sign of Libra. So playing out in Libra, kind of like in a little bit different way, but she's, the Libra, that scale of justice, really bringing that out. So bringing justice to, the corruption, the, lies, the falsities, the cover-ups, whatever else. These are just some of the aspects, though, that are making up our aspect pattern, which is a grand kite. So a grand kite is a grand trine. So we have three signs in one particular element. So this is um, all in the element of air. So, and that's topped with two sextiles going to the apex planet. So we have the grand trine there, we have the apex planet, and then the opposition in the middle. So that apex planet is that Jupiter Mercury um, conjunction in opposition to Pluto. So Pluto's down there at the bottom. Pluto, so and Mercury and Jupiter are at the peak because they're sextiling Uranus and um, Venus. So it's really aiming at expanding our mental clarity. So this is an air. This is about learning, gaining insight. But opposite Pluto, we struggle with these discoveries, and it's hard. It's hard to see things in a different light, to transform our thoughts, pretty much to transform, the things that we've thought for so long. Now we're kind of getting blown up. And I actually, on the way to make this video, I found this. So this could not describe it anymore. This is a yellow, if you could see the color, it's a yellow feather. So yellow represents the sun and um, this solar eclipse, and it's also a feather which represents air. And it was just laying there, almost like it's like you need to take me with you. So this is my little good luck charm here. So again, we're finding it hard. We might find it hard to really believe the things that are coming out. We may kind of put our guard up. The grand trine is made up again of our air signs. So Venus is in the sign of Libra, so that's justice. She wants beauty in the world, and so she wants to get rid of the ugliness that, that just needs to go. Uranus and Gemini is really just digging for the truth. And this could be a lot of unexpected truths, like, oh, I never thought that. Like, I can't even believe that. So a lot of things that we find pretty much unbelievable. And this could have to do with anything, revelations coming out, alien life, um, who knows what. The alien I look at the same as like this Leo. It's kind of that higher up, kind of like that, almost like authority figure, the way we look at them, how, in history, we think that the aliens helped make Stonehenge. And so they kind of were those teachers and those authority figures way back when. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius. So that is putting the power in the people's hands. So it's transferring that power from these ones that we look up to, the ones that we idolize, the ones that we follow, and kind of giving it back to us. So, maybe it gives us a little, time to think for yourself, time to stop following everybody else. And this is how we can transform ourselves, to stop thinking of ourselves only. Mercury brings this information fed by these placements into the air, these air signs, working together to gain knowledge. It will awaken and bring change. This is an upright kite. So when you see that this kite just stands upright in the chart, it is pointing at the sky. So Pluto forces those with those heavy karmic load to fall. But also the righteous will rise. So it shows that opposition where those who have been good and who have done things the right way will rise. They will float away with that kite. So again, that kite is pointed to the heavens. It's pointed to, that destiny that we're all looking for. And we have the other kite. This one now, there's two kites in this chart. We have another kite that points down. It's like a fallen kite. So it's still made up of the same trine, but this one has the peak kind of pointing down almost. So like it fell out of the sky, like a kite that fell right out of the sky, no longer gloriously sailing high above, but now it's back down to earth and it's not going to rise again. So it's kind of like that death of one kite to have the rising of the other kite. The second kite, again, is made up of the same trines, Venus, Uranus, Pluto, but topped with Neptune. So and that's Neptune in the sign of Aries. So both of these are topped by fire signs. So this is brought down, so this kite brought down to Earth by what was once unseen and what was once an illusion of truth exposed by this luminal. So this is almost, no, chill, go. So this is almost exactly, what luminal does. It exposes things in the darkness with that dark light. It's that glow in the dark that shows you what negativity, where that was, and the bad, the crimes that happened, pretty much, the sins, I guess you could say, which is so much about what Neptune is. It's what's unseen, it's what's hidden, but also Neptune is about confusion. It's about the unknown. Like, what now? What's waiting for us now that we know these things? Where do we go from here? A lot will be asking those questions. So in this kite, we see that Venus is in opposition to Neptune. So Venus is that opposite planet. That's at the other peak. Venus will take that knowledge and take action to bring justice to what that luminal, that Neptune luminal, brought to light. So Mars, who's now in Cancer, is defensive and it's trying to protect, and be that mama bear, protecting its young. Now, Venus and Mars are in a square to each other. So, um, so there's that kind of uncomfortable aspect where Venus is kind of being the tough one, where Mars is kind of being the more protective one. It's like, protecting its young. It won't go down without a fight. It's going to fight for the people that it did, worship and care about. Because, you know, of that pushing of the bounds of acceptance, pushing those boundaries. Mars is squaring Neptune. And it's because of this fear of the unknown, the fear of confusion, and the fear of uncertainty. So these planets square Mars. Venus is opposite to Neptune. Mars is square to Neptune. That creates this T-square aspect. And that's in cardinal signs. So T-squares can be very difficult. So as this eclipse brings the darkness, Leo, we search for answers. And as we search for the truth, the sun becomes dark. Saturn, Neptune are both retrograde at this time in the sign of Aries. So it's really actively going back and looking for answers and trying to find the truth. And they're digging for the truth. This T-square in the cardinal signs has a missing leg. So we have our cardinal signs with our T-square is made up of Venus in the sign of Libra, we have Neptune in the sign of Aries, and then we have um, uh, Mars in the sign of Cancer. So what's missing? Um, the catalyst is what's missing. That's, what we need to fix this, or what is actually, crumbling away. And that is in the sign of Capricorn. So as we discussed in the video, The 10 Days of the Apocalypse Enlightenment, when we spoke about that book of Revelation, and it's the seven seals opening up, bringing one by one the four horsemen of the apocalypse that will pass judgment on those who have sinned against morality and who've sinned against humanity. We're seeing already this sneak peek with the Fauci hearings and the truth exposed in his diaries, that were so focused on his fame. And so you see that they wanting to be that Leo, wanting to be that shining sun for everyone, that he just put everything and had so much pride in the fame that he was gathering that he wrote it all down, to like in a manuscript or something and sent it to an email himself, and that's how it was found. But all the while, it was exposing different lies and the things that he did to go against his what he demanded of everybody else. So we see that, where we just can't really find a more exact example than that, I feel like. So, we had many who trusted him, looked at him for guidance, they looked up to him. He was our doctor, he was our shining sun. And now we're finding out that some of the things that he said maybe weren't really that good for us. Maybe, closing the whole state down, that Saturn Pluto conjunction, they forced a shutdown so that, or the whole country, forcing children not to go to school, forcing, you couldn't visit your sick relatives. So a lot of things like this are making people really angry, and they're wanting to, you know, have him face justice. So that's that, you know, uh, Venus in Libra right there. But like that Mars in Cancer, that square with, okay, we want to have, accountability for this. We want him to be accountable for the things that he's done. But that square to Mars in Cancer, that's like his supporters that are, fighting like those mama bears and saying, no, we need to protect his reputation. This is our guy. So that missing leg in Capricorn is actually where we could see these reputations starting to deteriorate away because of this information that's coming out. Now, I'm just giving him as an example, because it pretty much kind of spells it all out. He's that sun, and then he's kind of falling. We have Neptune as that head planet. Neptune can also represent viruses and deception. So we see that he could be that makeup perfectly of that fallen kite. Neptune and Saturn are going retrograde, and they're going back to where it all began to find those answers. And where is that going back to? I think we all know it's going back to 2020 to expose and bring that karmic justice with these Fauci hearings. And now I guess he's in contempt. So they're not just going to let it go. They want to bring justice, with these hearings, diary entries, forcing him, he's still closing down the truth. He's not answering questions. So that we see, that he's trying not to expose it. So that is that keeping that light dimmed with that solar eclipse. But that is still, it's going to grow. And once Jupiter and Mercury get closer and closer, things are going to be exposed. So we go back to 2020 when it all began. The solar eclipse in Capricorn actually was in December 2019. And so this is when, that I that's a solar eclipse, that idealism of wanting power, wanting more and more power starts coming into play. And I know I've heard in the past about, a virus, what's going to happen if a pandemic comes out. I actually, probably just a few months before that, had listened to a podcast about war games that they were doing, preparing for if a pandemic came. And then so then we have this eclipse. Okay, so who's going to be in power? And then January comes along, and we have our buildup of planets coming into Capricorn. We have the Pluto-Saturn conjunction that's beginning that cycle. And we have news of a virus coming out, a virus giving people like infinite power, pretty much like, people that would just be, they're given full, they can go and arrest people for doing just normal everyday things because they don't agree with it, because that's what they're being told. And they're using and abusing that power as it grows and grows and grows, making, and building others' reputations while destroying others' reputations, saying, this is the science, this is the way it goes. But then anyone who kind of had a contradictory thought would automatically get kicked off of social media platforms and things like that. So you were only really hearing one side of it. But now we start seeing things changing a little bit. So, instead of so these people that had their reputations destroyed might actually be rising back up, like that rising kite, where the other, what's exposed of the abuses of power are those falling kites. So um, maybe, maybe we'll see what else comes out. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more. So that's again just an example that I had. It kind of just fit with the narrative, I think, almost pretty exactly. So I thought it was a really good example. So this eclipse in the fire sign of Leo, it will have literally things on fire. And we already are seeing, as we are getting ready for this eclipse, the whole world is on fire. And that's like literally and figuratively. People are angry. People are, demanding justice. But then we actually see actual fires, wildfires everywhere. Western United States, we see it in Canada, all over Europe, places that are so hot. I know where we go in Montana, it was over 100 degrees, and that's so far north, and it's usually a cooler climate. So it's really crazy how you can see this building of fire. And if you think about it, so we have the trine in air signs, but then that's air blowing at that fire, blowing that fire to make it bigger, to really expose what is that fire. So just fueling those flames pretty much. And that's what air does when it works with fire. So the effects of this, because of this eclipse, is in a fixed sign. Stop it. Sorry. Picky just came over and gave my camera a little boost. So because Pix, stop. Because this is in a fixed sign, um, these changes are going to be long-term and permanent. Oh, sorry about that. So the effects of this, of an eclipse in a fixed sign, are going to be long-term or permanent, um, permanent results and permanent effects that are going to be, unchangeable pretty much, because we also have Pluto involved. And hopefully the Lionsgate portal has prepared you by helping you clear your own karmic debt. Like I explained in that video, you need to clear your own karmic debt. Get rid of the things that are holding you back. These things, pretty much dependencies on things and other people and celebrities and these people that you worship, and try and like build that up for yourself. You want to love yourself. You want to build your own confidence in yourself and not just rely on everybody else. You want to rely on your own mind. So you want to keep your head clear. So, we still have time. The peak is not until the 8th, which is on tomorrow. I'm going to put this video out on Friday, and then on Saturday, that is when it's 8/8, and that is the peak of um, the Lionsgate portal. So we still have time to really just meditate and try and clear ourselves, so we can prepare your mind to absorb all of this clarity that's coming out, to absorb this enlightenment, so that you can evolve with knowledge and know, what's right and what's wrong. Evolve your mind with this knowledge, the ability to think for yourself, to accept the truth of the world and the universe around us. So I am personally looking very forward to this eclipse, because it falls exactly conjunct my Venus. 17 minutes, the orb, 17 minutes. So, so tight in the exact degree, and also in my 8th house. So interested to see how that's going to play out. So hoping for the best, of course. So how do you think this is going to play out for you? What do you think is going to be revealed? Like what else is going to be exposed? What else is going to come out? What other corruption? What other, um, you know, crazy things and stories that we hear about people, elected officials, or who knows? I mean, because it has been insane lately. Um, I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. So if you enjoyed, please give some love, hit that bell, and get notified of future notifications. Of course, hit the like button so I can see how many of you actually enjoyed watching, and subscribe. It really helps to, build the channel and really get the information out there. And again, leave comments, because I love to know what you guys think. So go ahead and move forward through this. Move towards that solar eclipse with a clear and peaceful and open mind, with expressing positivity through our words and honesty through our words. And then also filling your heart full of love and kind of letting your heart shine and just really appreciating and giving thanks for the things that you do have in life, for all of the nice beneficial things, no matter how small, no matter how large. If you give a little bit of gratitude every day, your heart just feels a little bit fuller and shines a little bit brighter. And we need that during a solar eclipse when the sun's not shining so bright. Also, having faith in yourself and your spiritual evolution. So I will see y'all soon. Bye.